Last night, we saw 9 groups step up to the plate to unveil their plans for the community's summer season. Among them, we saw 17 new shows announced, along with the confirmation of 12 shows airing within the next few months. But now that the dust has settled, 24 hours after one of the biggest nights in the year for the community, it's time to start figuring out which shows are likely to become a huge success, which of them are going to sing without a trace, and which of them are probably not gonna make it out of development at all. This is the Game Show Direct 2023 analysis. Tonight we have analysis on all the big announcements and a shortened version of most of the events and stuff announced. We've also got your thoughts on this year's announcements. For the first time ever, we've ran an unofficial exit poll to find out who the community think are the winners and losers after last night. We're ready to get into this, so we're going to quickly start with a quick history lesson about Game Show Direct. It's an event where various groups present announcements of new and returning shows. Normally the announcements solely relate to the summer season, and the last one was held in 2021. 6 of the biggest groups in the community took part, including NBC, TRN, TGP, TOF, and NBC, and GCW. This year's edition will once again involve some of the biggest groups in the community: TOF, Game Show League, and Almond Productions, or APS as I now know. But it also will involve some of the smaller groups. For those smaller groups, tonight is their biggest chance yet to get new members, to win over new members, and basically an extremely good lineup from them could give them a lot of momentum going forward and could really increase their group numbers. But it's not just high stakes for the small groups. TOF Studios, the largest group in the community, has had a terrible 2022 and is looking to reboot its success. With very few successes and like Blockbusters or a Match Game all struggling to gain traction, the only major successes they had last year were Press Your Luck and Wheel of Fortune. So for tonight, they need a strong load of announcements that will be coming out pretty soon if they want to reclaim their position at the top of the totem pole. I need some water. For Game Show League and APS, tonight could be a chance for them to consolidate their positions as the new flag bearers of the community. They've both been putting out quality programming over the last 12 months, and a bad night won't really do much harm for them. And finally, NBC literally just pulled out last Sunday night. They cited staff unavailability as the reason, and their appearance was missed, and their announcement that was presumed to be made at the event was eventually made on Discord. So that's everything you basically need to know about for the big groups going into this event. It's now time to actually start getting into the analysis of the show itself, and we're going to start with Mikey Does Stuff and the minor group section. Mikey Does Stuff kicks off their event, or their announcement, with the confirmation of Wheel of Fortune for a new season. They also announced the celebrity spin-off, Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. It's a pretty solid announcement, but it isn't anything we've seen before from the community. TGC previously did Celebrity Wheel of Fortune a couple years ago, so it's a solid announcement, and yeah. This is followed by a confirmation of a second season of their adaptation of The Price is Right, which is now currently in development as well. Again, it's nothing to write home about, and I will remind everyone about oversaturation, especially regarding Price is Right. For those who have not seen the video on it, there is a link in the description or in the iCard to that video about the Price is Right and its possibility of being really oversaturated. They also confirmed a new season of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, this time with Fastest Finger First, and a new set based on the 1999 Netherlands set. It's a really good call. That particular set has not been done in the community just yet, and it is I'll be very interested to see how it goes. Finally, from Mikey Does Stuff, they announced a new version of Russian Roulette, which will probably be the first to last more than 5 episodes since the top version in 2021. No offense to TGP. It looks like it's going to be the classic set from the US run. Again, it is the most common, but then again, there is a lot less to go with on Russian Roulette than other shows and formats that they are doing in the community. So you can't really fault them for going for the obvious choice. Up next, we have Shady's Game Show Club. They have just under 400 members, and I wasn't really aware of them before this event. So, yeah. But they kicked it off with another Wheel of Fortune announcement. I really do feel like Wheel of Fortune's being announced is going to become a meme at these events, because there's plenty more times where it gets announced in the community tonight. Or it was announced in the community last night. Again, nothing to really write home about with Wheel of Fortune, but they have taken a bit of a bigger risk with their other announcements. They first announced Double Dare, which inside the community is pretty much unheard of. Studio C did run a version of Double Dare, though it was merely more considered to be a physical comp. Studio C itself was really considered a studio comp group, or physical comp group compared to everyone else. I can't really say much more. I don't really go to many Studio C shows, but there was more. It definitely did feel like, from what I saw, a lot more physical game shows than knowledge and intellect. They did really straddle the line very finely. This was a really good announcement, and it's a really good choice for a show. Something we haven't seen much in the community so much, and I think that's going to become a really good calling card show for them. I think. Their final announcement was an original wrestling event, based around wrestling, in similar vein to Creative Clash Boxing on YouTube. Notable members will fight each other in the ring. It's going to be called Gameshow Brawl, and this is a very big gamble. There is a crossover between wrestling and game shows in the community, but it's very niche, very, very niche. Whether or not this will be a success really depends on the names they get for it. It's a big gamble, especially for a small group, but it is really really ambitious as well. But I think that has really helped get eyeballs on their group, as you'll see later in the later analysis. Whammy's Home of the Game Shows was next to take the stage. They did so via video link, and no physical representative was there. And we had an announcement for Wheel of Fortune. And they also announced Match Game, which I'll be honest and probably straight up say it now. It will receive low ratings because Match Game doesn't do well unless it's on GSL. No offense to anyone who is running Match Game, of course. That's just how it is. Run-of-the-mill stuff from them, and it was probably the most lackluster announcement from a group tonight, this evening. Next up is Studio 64, and I have got a lot to say about them. announcement. This announcement from Studio 64, or this announcement section from Studio 64, was probably the worst structured announcements of the evening. They just stated the show. They give the pieces. They didn't give any time frame, any host, any actual details. They've kept a lot of things under wrap. They're playing cards close to their chest, which is the one thing you don't want to do at this event. You're here to show off your shows, tell us what's new about them and all that, and we end up with them saying, we got new mechanics, but we're not going to tell you, you need to come and watch the show. It really did not work. It really didn't work. We had announcements including another Wheel of Fortune adaptation. That is the fourth one tonight. I am not joking. That's the fourth announcement for Wheel of Fortune we've had this evening alone. And yeah, I will give them credit though for not using a non-English speaking version set, which is always a good thing. Always good to see a bit of differentiation in the community. This is where my major gripes start coming in though now. This was followed by a new original format adaptation of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, titled was Clock Strikes Back, which I have a major gripe with. And to explain my major gripe, I am going to quote the announcement that they made on the stage last night. And I quote, "Two players go head-to-head on multiple choice questions. The first to get another question wrong is eliminated, while the other player goes to the hot seat. The questions have time limits that increase as the money at stake increases." I'm sorry, but this just sounds really familiar. I've heard this before. I've generally heard this before. And I've heard it before because we did it on Multi-Millionaire on TRN in season 5 and 6, 2 years ago. And that's not all. This whole player's going head-to-head until they get a question wrong thing. Wasn't that done on TRN's Millionaire Last Man Standing as well? I don't know if the execution's going to be different or anything, but this just sounds like you're cobbling together pieces from Multi-Millionaire and Millionaire Last Man Standing. And cobbling pieces together doesn't work for an original adaptation or spin-off. It generally doesn't. Do I think it's going to work? It won't. If you can't explain the format in one sentence, very simply, it's not going to work. It won't be. No one's going to be interested in it. And will it do well on the ratings? I don't think it will either. I think it's gonna. I think, especially with the set they showed off, I think it's not gonna get much interest from the community either. This is really frustrating for me. It really is. I'm not happy. I did not enjoy this announcement. It's the first time I think at a Game Show Direct where I've had an announcement which I have not enjoyed. But whilst I'm whipping into shows, I might as well mention Spin for a Million, which has announced that adding around a new final round to its 5 different spin-offs or versions. And it needs to be made clear as well, 5 versions of one format. This is one format, one original format. It's got 4 different adaptations, a total of 5 adaptations of the same format. Is way too many. People will know. If you've seen the Price is Right video, I've talked about how the community is basically how the Price is Right has been basically overexposed because 5 different groups, 6 different groups are doing versions of the Price is Right back to back every week. Studio 64 is overexposing its own original property. This isn't a case where too much of a good thing. Too much of one thing is a good thing. This is not good. People will get bored. They need to take a hard look, and they need to trim the fat down because, genuinely, some of the decisions tonight from them were absolutely baffling. Absolutely baffling. And I think And I think they need to really consider calming down on commissioning spin-offs for shows. They really need to. Because they're basically burying what is probably going to be their calling card show. They also announced 1 versus 100 using a virtual mob, as they will not have enough space or members for a proper physical human mob. Personally, I am mixed on this announcement, but I'll probably still end up recommending the APS 1 versus 50 instead. Finally, in the minor group section, we have Waffle Groups, Waffles Group, Waffle Gameshow Network. And I say surprisingly because they have more members than GSL and APS. And they're in the minor groups. I actually had them in the major group section until they were announced that they were in minors. I literally as well. I was expecting them to be in the major group section, but they were not. Anyway, there were only 2 announcements from them. Family Feud has been revived at Waffle. And I will admit right now, the lack of Family Feud has really really surprised me tonight. I was really expecting a lot more from Family Feud, like Family Feud announcements from community groups, but I'm surprised to see that that's not the case. So yeah, I'm really surprised by that. I was expecting Family Feud to have a couple big announcements to be announced for a couple of groups. Not the case. It'll be a solid addition to the April shows of WGSN, and yeah, it's going to be Steve Harvey's set. Yeah, not much I can say about that at this time. They also announced a revival of Blockbusters, which is a huge surprise, especially since the top version bombed massively last year. Though I feel like that's more of a time slot issue than a quality or question writing issue. I'm going to actually be going on a limb and say I'm quite hopeful because Blockbusters is a really good format. It's a really underrated format. Never got much love in the community. I really do hope this is a success for them because Blockbusters really does deserve better. So overall, some hits and some misses from minor groups. We're going to talk about the big groups as well before we give out our analysis on those on overall for the smaller groups and the major groups. And we kick off with APS. Armin came out, stepped out, and he really did treat this like a proper investors call. They showed them and Toff. They showed charts. They had pie charts, stat boards. APS really did hammer home the fact that they are doing really well in the ratings. And also, they also did mention, and this isn't APS, this is Toff ended up bringing out pie charts and all that about their community. Though I don't know why people in the community need to know that 31.1% of Toff's members are over the age of 18. But then again, I guess it makes them look more like a business at the end of the day, so I'll digress. APS kicked off their announcements with the Super Chase, or as the British people know it, Beat the Chasers. Important to know that outside of general air dates, APS did not show any set stills for newly announced shows, which has made my job really difficult. No. But Beat the Chasers has been slated to air once a month, which is an interesting decision. It's an interesting decision. The only other way they could have made it special was airing it daily every night for a week, which would have really led to some very tired and very hostile members of staff at APS. So I think the fact that they're going to do this once a month is a better decision, for what it's worth. So it's probably the right call there. They also announced Wheel of Fortune. It's going to be a meme by the end of this. Can we get some text on the bottom here? And Group X announced Wheel of Fortune. I'm not joking with this. It's the 5th and final time tonight that it was announced. Yes, you heard me right. The 5th. Make your memes now, people. It's going to be based on the German version, and it's going to use. I'm going to say German version because that's the image they used in the background for the during the announcement. And it's going to be apparently using a tournament-based format, which is a welcome change. Even outside of Tournament of Champions and Tournament of Losers, we've not really seen much in the way of tournaments from the community, inside the community. So for them, yeah, I'm very excited to see how this will play out. Though I will also mention right now, and there's a little bit of analysis, I guess, to consider, the fact that we're about to see 4 different versions or new versions of Wheel of Fortune, and a 5th one if you include the MDS Celebrity version, isn't a good thing. It's a sign that Wheel of Fortune is going to probably end up joining The Price is Right in the oversaturated show camp, and I think that's something that we need to keep an eye out for in the community. Obviously, not all these shows are going to debut at the same time. Some will debut later in the summer, some will debut earlier in the summer. But if there's a point where we have 5 different versions of Wheel of Fortune airing, yeah, I think it's going to become a bit of a problem. Similar in the vein to how Price is Right is ended up airing, how Price is Right ended up airing every week for a month, a little while back. APS also reconfirmed that that T1 will be premiering in 2 weeks. They're using the Dutch format, which is some really good news because it's a lovely little breakaway from what we have came to see in the community over the past almost 10 years. And they finally ended up in their announcement section with announcements for Millionaire, both Classic and Hot Seat, Smartest Person, and The Wheel. They've all been renewed. Again, it's a very solid lineup and a very lineup of shows. APS once again providing a solid lineup of shows. Not a bad night for them, but I will get into The Wheel a bit later as well because I need to. There is something I need to point out with that. Penultimate group up tonight was GSL. Only had 3 announcements to make. We had the first still from 10 to 1, with its pilot airing this coming Saturday night. It is based on the British game show 15 to 1, which has had a couple of attempts of being done in the community. Never has been done to a proper, or has never lasted a full season in the community. So yeah. So yeah, very interesting to see how that goes. I imagine it'll take a couple of years to get through the season, considering how GSL can schedules their programming. But yeah, the first 2 announcements from GSL tonight was the first of which was Greed, based on which I can tell from the still and the music in the announcement seems to be going off the European or UK version. Interesting to note, the Greed logo that they used had euros in it. But then again, so yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. Greed as a show has a long history in the community. The only real group to attempt the version Greed was TRN, and we did do a series of that back in 2019. We were attempting several times throughout 2020, 2021, up until the closure, to produce a new season. And TGP also had a go around 2021 as well, but nothing came from it. So it'll be very interesting to see if Greed makes it out into the community through GSL. It's been almost 5 years since we've had a proper new season of it. And the final announcement from GSL was a confirmed revival of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Armin returns to the host, and it's likely that they're using a updated version of the 1999 set, the US version. Though I will admit that they did end up putting stills out for a Netherlands Lotto set version a while back. I think that might just be for 15-1 or 10-1 because they announced that they confirmed there'd be a lottery in the season finale. But yeah, not much to say about this really. probably will be another solid showing from GSL. And the final group to provide us with huge announcements was TOF Studios, the biggest group in the community. They kicked off their announcements following all that bit about their demographics and all that with Super Password. Interesting call, considering we just had a revival of Classic Password on linear TV. That was somewhat successful. I'm surprised they're not going to go. They're going to take that one straight up. Or that's set straight up. They're going for the 80s set and Password Plus, the Super Password format, and use this renovated set from it from the original run as well. I imagine that's because this is either a very much a quick commission, or alternatively to basically what's been in the works for a while now. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it. I do have a theory that it's probably end up replacing Wheel of Fortune in the Sunday 3:30 slot after its conclusion, so that's probably a guarantee unless it's going up into 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Next up was a quick bit on the JC show, logo reveal for the new season. Really, this was fine. React's got a new trailer with an extended look at the new set and its graphics, and it looks really good, really gorgeous stuff from Zhao. We had the 100,000 Pyramid getting an announcement. They're going to be getting a new season. I'm returning to a season 1 set, but nicer. No more end of season tournament. Shade returns to host. I have no opinion on this. I'm ambivalent. To use my brother's term for my brother. I'm really not got an opinion on this. I think Pyramid's an alright show in the community. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on it. And then we got a new unannounced show announcement. No hints or anything from this earlier. Golden Balls is coming to TOF. One of the most precious shows that has not ever been done in the community. Very big news. A fair play to TOF for doing it, but I think it's one of the again, it's another really ambitious show to go for. So yeah, this is huge news. I'll be very interested to see how this goes. That was mostly it for the announcements as well, but I do want to mention something that I picked up on during the TOF section, during the TOF wrap up, because there was a picture of a millionaire during it that you could see in the background on the screen. In the text, it had text on it as well in front of the in front saying "We'll be back." Is this TOF hinting at millionaire coming back to TOF pretty soon? I think it is. Previous seasons have ended up starting in September, and we could end up getting further announcements in the future, but it remains to be seen whether this was deliberate or not. So overall, TOF's evening is the most interesting. Tonight's announcements do help with figuring out where TOF's going, but I think they also missed the chance to update on shows, or to give out updates on shows that everyone knows are publicly in development. So we're talking Crusher and Run for Money here. The fact that we didn't get any announcements from them isn't a good thing, I don't think. But it has not been a bad night for TOF. We have a better idea of where they're going in the future, and it doesn't seem to be much clearer just yet. It's an interesting mix of new shows and old shows. That's what I figured out. That's what we figured out. But it was not a good night, but it was definitely not a bad night for TOF. And finally, Price is Right Roboxy announced that they'll be doing a new episode of Price is Right late June, early July. No specific date yet. So now we get into the analysis. We'll get into the analysis now, which is the big bit. And that's we're already half an hour into this, which is also crazy. So, overall, there were more announcements from 2021 than there were massive increase. However, unlike 2021, major groups really did quieten down. They lowered their announcements quite a bit, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, a lot of shows from 2021 ended up not making it out. I remember there are 10 of them at least that I talked about in a video a couple weeks ago. The only other big thing I want to point out is scheduling. Of course, I mentioned that there were quite a few shows that were announced. Most of these are going to end up airing within the next 3 months. So we're going to have a pretty big load of clashes, I think. Which is never a good thing, because that really hurts both groups involved in the clash. And we already know, for example, this is one thing that was confirmed. We already know that the Wheel on APS will air at 12:30 on Saturdays. And that debuts in 2 weeks. However, GSL airs its shows at normally around 1 o'clock on Saturdays, so that might be a big clash. That is a big clash. That's going to end up doing damage to both shows. Though I do think this is temporary. It's like a temporary announcement or of sorts, or it's basically, but yeah. And I imagine GSL will also move up to 1:30 to try and like help the situation, try and keep reduce the clash time. Pyramid will also have trouble finding a new slot because they're not looking good either. Yeah, it's not looking good for Pyramid already, because unless they're airing on weekdays, someone's going to lose their slot, and it will most likely be a smaller group. I fully intend on doing a video about the scheduling situation in the coming weeks. Not this week explicitly, but yeah. Not right now. But not right now. So it's time to get down and figure out who are the winners and losers tonight. And to decide that, we have a few factors that we're going to use. Aside from my opinion, which is probably going to be the big thing that decides who's the winners and losers. We've also got the even also tracker. So let's talk about how we decided this. We have the exit poll, which you guys filled out. We asked you questions about the about what you thought about groups announcements and other stuff like that. You can we'll be getting to that a little bit later on. But we're going to kick this off with something with the other measurement that we used for the minor groups. We tracked group numbers from the from just a couple minutes before the start of Gameshow Direct all the way up until the morning after. There are 2 reasons why we have done this. Basically, we want to see if Gameshow Direct affects a group's join rate, and if so, by how much. And the second reason why we did it is basically if people are interested in the announcement that the groups have made, they may end up joining their group. So yeah, that's the other reason. Anyway, we have the results from that. We measured it from 1:55 PM ET to 7 AM the next morning, and the results are on screen now. And you can see there, you can see on the graph that we've brought up, and you can see the times that we checked. Whammy had the biggest. They had a really big jump, which is really surprising considering that no one really did rate their announcements that highly. When I did my in the polls, which you'll see in a minute. But also the fact that they haven't really, outside that big jump, Shady's Game Show Club really did win out tonight. They've increased their numbers by 5 members, which doesn't sound like a lot, but yeah, it is an effect. There's of course an effect there. Mikey does stuff also had a small increase. Not much, but only 1 member. Only one member overnight. But Studio 64, didn't seem to go well for them tonight. They've had it looks like they've done pretty badly. They've lost a member since the event. And they haven't even gained any new members in the time since the event, which is not good news. And also, anyway, as I mentioned earlier, we're also going to use your opinions. We did our first ever unofficial Gameshow Direct exit poll, and it was presented by Really Rubric, of course. Really Rubric, bringing original game shows, weekdays. Right now. But in that, we asked members of the Really Rubric server to fill out a form overnight, in the evening of Gameshow Direct going out, until the next morning. And using the results from that, we can determine who the community thought are going to really have a good next few months, and who isn't. Among the questions we asked them were to rank new show announcements for both major and minor groups separately. We asked them who had the most exciting lineup after the event, and we also asked them about which show overall was the best of the evening, or which show announcement was the best of the evening. We have a spreadsheet that you guys can have a look through, with the charts and everything on. So basically, yeah. So yeah, if you have a chart, that's going to be in the description. For all the full questions and results. But I want to just highlight a few of them here. The best new show announcement from a major group was extremely close. It was pretty down to the wire. GSL's Revival of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire won that. Just pipped Greed and Todd's Golden Balls to the win. Most exciting lineup from a major group was Toff Studios. They won that by a landslide. Best new show from a minor group was Russian Roulette. From Mikey Does Stuff. We also asked them about the minor group show that's most likely to become a hidden gem. They also said Russian Roulette on Mikey Does Stuff. Most exciting lineup from a minor group was, I didn't have that on my prompter. I can bring it up quickly. Minor group. They said it's a tie. We have a tie. It was a tie between Shady's Game Show Club and Mikey Does Stuff. 4 votes each there. It was pretty even across the board. It wasn't a big... I will admit as well, it wasn't a big fielding size. There was only about 12 people who took part in this exit poll. But we argue that that's about enough enough for people to work on with. And overall, the best new show announcement of the evening was Golden Balls on Toff. They won overall on the night there. And as I mentioned earlier, full results on for that spreadsheet are in the link in the description below. And yeah. Let's get into the final bit then. It's time to... so we've went through the data. And now we can finally talk about who overall has won tonight and who has lost. In terms of the minor groups, Shady's Game Show Club... Sorry, I almost said Game Show Group there. Shady's Game Show Club are the clear big winners. They had the biggest gain in group joins out of the minor groups, along with a high approval rating for the Game Show Raw event. That finished third in the minor show announcements, and actually finished second in the overall new show announcements for the evening. Don't sleep on Shady's Game Show Club. Maybe the lesson there, because they have really pulled out of the bag tonight. They really have. Despite Mikey Does Stuff also could be considered a winner tonight. They won out in all the minor group categories for the most part, and as a result, you can really consider them a winner as well. In the major groups, GSL can be considered a winner as well. They also won tonight, though it wasn't as clear cut. They did win out in the major group categories, or they did. It was a lot less clear cut, but they did have the two biggest shows, or two best show announcers of the night. As I mentioned earlier, Toth is in the middle. Golden Balls may have been voted the best new announcement overall, and they may have the best lineup. But it's a very, I don't know if they've done enough yet to wait for this reboot for it to work. I think they played their cards really close to their chest. I think they could have done with announcing Jeopardy, which they did announce after Gameshow Direct. That could have probably really been done being announced at Gameshow Direct. Announcing something immediately after the Direct seems like a really like underhanded tactic compared to it. Instead of announcing it there, really, that's what it felt like. They haven't won tonight, but they can relax. Is basically how I'm putting it. APS is about to have a really strong summer with Millionaire Hot Seat about to return, which will probably do gangbusters on the number of numbers. And the original version of 2.0 deal has also, or is really going to do well, I think, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. But I think it might be about time to start a new series or drop a new series of Wheel of Fortune, and not to mention that possible clash with GSL that might happen if the wheel goes out on Saturdays at 12:30. I think APS is nowhere near being in trouble, but despite the power of its shows and how high they're going to rate, they have not won tonight. They haven't won tonight, but they haven't lost. Same, they're in the middle. They're just like Toth. But the clear loser tonight, Whammy's home of game shows. A video only appearance, no one is buying into Match Game. It finished bottom of the new show announcements. Actually, finished second bottom. Might have wrote this bit of the script a bit too early. They finished second bottom. Didn't really do that well in the new show announcements. They may have made a small gain in members, so it's not all that bad for them, but they have lost tonight, I think. Studio 64, on the other hand, has lost members. Clock Strike Back finished 7th in the new show announcements for minor groups. It's not a good night for them. Yeah, they're the only group to lose members since Gameshow Direct, and I had a very convoluted and messy announcement. This has been a very clearly a missed opportunity for them, and yeah, they have definitely lost tonight. Unfortunately as well, it doesn't seem like anyone's picking up what Waffle's putting down either. And I'm surprised. I thought Blockbusters were a lot better. It finished bottom of the new show announcements. 5 people placed it in last place for the minor group section. That's bad. It's a really bad night for the third group. In fact, Family Feud only finished 8th. 8th as well. It's brutal. They had a brutal night. That is an absolutely brutal night for Waffle. Yowzers. That's all I can say. But yeah. Yowzers for them. Not a good night for them either. Definitely not. But yeah. Overall, a very good event from the Price is Right Robloxia team and the Prime line. Big thanks to them for running it again, I guess you could say, and putting on such a great show. That's it for this very much longer than usual video on my end. My thanks goes out as, in addition to the Prime line and all the people who worked on Gameshow Direct, to the people who filled out our exit poll, and who spent a bit of time filling that out for us. Yeah. yeah, thanks for them. Thanks for that. That really is useful input. And we may do a bit more of that now in the future as well. There will be no game show discussion video next week because I want a bit of rest. But there are game shows on Really Rubik all this week, Monday to Thursday. Keep your eyes out for those on the channel as well. They're uploading on the day after they go out on they play out live on Roblox. But thank you ever so much for watching. Please do stay safe and see you soon for more. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.